Hey everyone, in this video we've got another presidential political shift. This time it's going to be 1960 to 1964. Those are two consecutive elections. A lot happening in the country at the time, pre-Kennedy and post-Kennedy. If you want to skip ahead to the map, there will be a chapter down below in the description. But let's put up some background about these two elections. In 1960, John F. Kennedy got 303 electoral votes, carried 22 states, good enough for 49.7% of the popular vote. The Republican was Richard Nixon. He got 219 electoral votes. He carried more states, 26, and slightly less of the popular vote, about 49.6. Very close in the popular vote. Electoral College, Kennedy with an advantage. 4 years later, we have Kennedy's vice president, Lyndon Johnson. He wins by a landslide. He gets 486 electoral votes, 44 states plus D.C., and that's good for over 61% of the popular vote. The Republican was Barry Goldwater. He only got 52 electoral votes and carried 6 states with 38.5% of the popular vote. So 2 wins for the Democrats. 64 was a big landslide. Let's switch back over to the spreadsheet. We've got the states in the first column, then the 1960 Democratic vote, Kennedy, the 1960 Republican vote, Nixon, then the 64 Democratic vote, Johnson, followed by the 64 Republican vote, Goldwater. The next column are the Democratic shifts between those two elections, followed by the Republican shifts. And the last column, that's the net change between the two parties between the two elections. And I have the shading where the darkest colors are 10 or more point shifts. The very lightest colors would be under 5-point shifts. There's none of these in this video, so let's start here in Alabama. I'll put up the two elections here just for Alabama because it does get a little confusing. In 1960, you could see there's technically third-party vote with Harry Byrd. He actually got the most votes. John F. Kennedy, the actual Democrat, this has him at 55.8%. That's the percentage I use in my sheet. Richard Nixon, 41.7. Then in 1964, Goldwater has 69.5, but the votes for the Democrat are unpledged at 30.6. To make it much more simple, I'm going to say those go for Lyndon Johnson. Maybe you would do it a different way, but for some of these southern states in these two elections, that's how I'm going to do it to make it simple. So if you apply that to the sheet, that does result in a net loss of 25.2 for the Democrats and a net gain of 27.8 for the Republicans, a total net shift of 53% away from the Democrats and toward the Republicans. A little confusing, I understand, but let's quickly go through the rest of these states. Most of these are toward the Democrats unless otherwise noted. So Alaska, that had a huge Democratic shift of 33.6. Arizona, smaller shift there of 10.1. Arkansas, even smaller by 5.6. California, up to 18.8. Colorado, stronger still toward the Democrats by 32.8. Connecticut, 28.3. Delaware, 20.6. And Florida, a smaller 5.3. Georgia went toward the Republicans by 33.3. Back toward the Democrats, now we have Hawaii. That was the biggest blue shift out of all the states at a whopping 57.6. Idaho, 9.4. Illinois, 18.8. Indiana, 22.8. Iowa, 37.5. Kansas, 30.4. And Kentucky, 35.5. Louisiana, another one of those southern states that shifted toward the Republicans by a massive 35.4. Maine went hard toward the left by 51.8. Maryland, 23.8. Massachusetts, 32.2. Michigan, 31.5. Minnesota, 26.4. And take a look at Mississippi, yet again another one of those southern states, but that's one or two of the biggest shifts I've ever seen. Almost seems impossible, but 85.8 away from the Democrats and very hard toward the Republicans. Next in Missouri, more shifts back toward the Democrats by 27.5. Montana, 20.9. Nebraska, 29.4. Nevada, 14.8. New Hampshire, 34.6. New Jersey, 30.9. New Mexico, 18.2. New York, 32.1. North Carolina, single digits there and even 8%. North Dakota, back up huge toward the left by 27. Ohio, 32.4. Oklahoma, 29.5. Oregon, 33.1. Pennsylvania, 27.8. And Rhode Island, 34.6. South Carolina has that red shift again of 20.2. And the rest of the shifts are toward the Democrats. South Dakota's first, 27.6. Tennessee 18.1, Texas 24.8, Utah 19.4, Vermont just under 50, 49.9, Virginia 12.7, Washington 27, West Virginia 30.4, Wisconsin 28.1, and the last state is Wyoming, and that shifted 23.2. Those are all the states. I don't have Washington, D.C. on here. They did not have electoral votes in the 1960 presidential election. So those are all the shifts, and we're going to do what we always do. We're going to take this data and apply it to a map. Here it is, but there's not much to say about it. We've got similar shading, 10 or more points for the darkest colors. This time the smallest shifts are under 5 points. There's only a few of those states on here. And if you're looking for takeaways, it's really only those southern states that went hard toward Nixon and the Republicans. The rest of the states went gigantic for Johnson and the Democrats. Now, of course, Nixon would go on to win the 1968 presidential election and a landslide in 72, but between 60 and 64, a tumultuous time in the country, Barry Goldwater had minimal success. He did win his home state, but not much else. Lyndon Johnson got the job done. Won in a landslide, tons of blue across almost the entire country, many shifts over 20 or 30 points, and there's not much else to say. I'm sure you could look at individual states or come up with certain reasons as to why certain states shifted as much or as little as they did, but this is a great shift for the Democrats, terrible for the Republicans. We've seen it the other way around, but this is a big blue shift, and I'll leave it there for now. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of the shifts in any of these states? It's only 2 consecutive elections. A lot can change sometimes. Let me know your thoughts down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.